So my background is I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia, and got married when I was 18, so super young, moved to the West Atlanta area. And when I got married, my husband was in pharmacy school. So I worked full time, super interested in real estate, but I just wasn't at the place in my life where I could pursue it. So got my husband through school. Meanwhile, we bought our first house, 2013, for $88,000. I've shared this on social media. And if I could go back and do that 20 times over, I would do that. That number one was the best decision that we made to help set up our financial future. And of course, if anybody could go back in 2013, they'd probably buy, 20 houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that right there interested me in the real estate world. Worked with a realtor through those transactions. I think we bought maybe 2 houses while he was in school. And then once he got out of school, started having kids. In 2019, had a 3.5-year-old, got pregnant with my daughter, and I realized I only had a couple more months to have only 1 kid. So I was like, this is the only time I'm probably ever going to have some time for myself. And so I dropped my son off at Mother's Morning Out 2 days a week and would go to Panera Bread and study for my real estate test and take my classes during those like 4 hours or so a week. So really cool. Just passed and big pregnant and started this process. When I first started, I thought I was just going to kind of dabble in real estate, maybe sell like 1 or 2 houses a year so I could stay home with my kids. And it just kind of snowballed. So I found that I really love real estate, the processes of the paperwork and negotiation and showing the houses. I love all of it. So it was really hard for me to just kind of dabble. And I also found that it was hard to dabble and actually be a really good realtor for my clients, staying up to date on the market and all of those kind of things. So I just did it. Nowadays, I don't say that I work full time, but I'm working pretty much, pockets of my day while I'm raising my kids. So I really love what I do. When I first got my real estate license, I joined a smaller brokerage. They had an 80-20 split, which I thought was amazing compared to the 50-50s and the 60-40s that I was seeing. But I learned pretty quickly that with that smaller split, I just didn't get the training and support that I really needed. And finally, 1 month when I paid my brokerage about $9,000, I was like, this is too much money for them to be making, and I can't even get a phone call or email back. So I wasn't aggravated with them, but it did open my eyes. I was like, what else could there be out there? So fast forward a little bit, 2022, I had an opportunity to get my license in Tennessee. And so I started studying for that and stumbled upon Zach Taylor actually through social media. And at the time, I think they only had like 19 agents or something like that. But I loved that he did a transaction fee versus a commission split. Again, if I was only going to do, a few transactions a year, then I wanted to be able to keep as much of that money that I was making as possible. So fast forward a little more, joined with them. And since joining in Tennessee, my eyes were opened that you could get a brokerage that offers a transaction fee only, not a commission split, and gives you the support, the training that you need. And it's just been amazing. So I begged Zach to come to Georgia so I could move my license to Zach Taylor in Georgia, and he agreed if I would help him grow the brokerage in Georgia. So it's a win-win for the Georgia people. There's nothing else like this that I have found anywhere around here. There are brokerages that have a transaction fee only, but again, you just don't get the well-oiled machine like what Zach Taylor is. So thank y'all all for being a part. I am glad to be here and excited for the future. Something else that I loved about the company is that they don't put pressure on their agents to have to work 40 hours a week, have to be in the office, 9 to 5. You don't have to make 100 phone calls a day if you don't want to. This is your business. So if you want to succeed in real estate, then you can. If you want to dabble, if you want to sell 1 house a year, then by all means do it. We don't put pressure for you to, have to be a top producer, which is a silly term in my opinion anyway. But because who's actually saying who's the top producer? Like, whatever. So again, it's your business. I'm talking to the agents right now. It's your business. So sky's the limit. If you want to be successful, you definitely can within this brokerage, and you can keep a lot of your hard-earned money with this company. So if nobody has any questions or any input on any of that, then I am going to go over the exclusive buyer brokerage engagement agreement. So this is our buyer brokerage agreement. This is what you are going to fill out when you are working with a buyer. So this used to be something that was a good practice, but was essentially optional. It was something that I didn't necessarily have buyers sign until we actually got under contract or we were super close to contract. But now with the new NAR ruling, I don't know if it's NAR or NAR, however you say that, with that ruling, we really need to be filling these out the, second that you are before you actually show somebody a property. So number one, something that I would recommend for all of our agents to get in practice of before you show a house is to get the buyer to get pre-approved and give you a pre-approval letter. The last thing I want our agents to be doing is wasting their time. So if you don't have a pre-approval, now there can be exceptions. If you're showing a family member or close friend or something, you can wait. But it is a good practice to get into to get a pre-approval before, mainly because what if you show them a house, they love it, they want to make an offer, and they can't get it? Then you look bad, there's bad feelings involved. You don't want that. So again, before you have anybody fill this out, before you show them a house, get them to get pre-approved. If you have specific questions on that process, then that could be something we learn about in one of our next trainings. Anything that you have questions on regarding any of this, you can, email me, text me, call me. I'm happy to give y'all, this is why we're here. I'm happy to tell y'all anything that is in my knowledge. Been doing this a couple years. I'm not like the best real estate agent in the world, but I have been doing it long enough. I'm semi-familiar. Anyway, so buyer engagement agreement. So it's essentially saying this is exclusive. So exclusive buyer agreement. You're going to have number 2, which is the term. So you want to have a beginning date of your term and an ending date. Okay. And by the way, this is just a agreement that I pulled from one of my recent transactions. So these dates aren't necessarily, what you need to put in there, but this is just something that I used pretty recently. So on this term, I gave a year agreement. That means, I could show houses to this buyer within that period of time, and I am owed a commission if they purchase one of those houses. Okay. So something that we do not offer that I would never recommend you try to get into is dual agency. This is number 3. So dual agency is what you'll click that we are not offered by the broker. And then if broker offers dual agency, I'm going to say does not consent to broker acting in a dual agency capacity. Okay. So it's really hard to represent both buyer and seller and have loyalty to both sides. I had a buyer call me today wanting to see a listing of mine, and I'm like, look, my fiduciary responsibility and my loyalty goes to the seller that I've listed their house. So if you want to see the house, we're happy to set that up, to coordinate that for you if you don't have an agent, but I am not going to show it to you and try to get both sides. I know there are agents that do that. I am not recommending that for our Georgia agents. I've been burned by this several times, just trying to act as a customer for one side and client for the other. And there's just no way you can really give both parties the service that they deserve. So I'm, just making a stand. This doesn't mean that this is law, but I would say I don't get behind dual agency for our agents in Georgia. Okay, number 4, commission. This is the part we all like to see. So the buyer, this is a new, by the way, this A right here is a new part. If you're an older agent, I guess, experienced agent, buyer agrees to pay the broker the commission set forth below at the closing of a contract to purchase. Okay, so that's the term. So this used to say, I think it used to say the seller would pay the broker commission. Now it's saying the buyer. Okay. But I do want to say that further explanation of this right here in A, it says buyer is not a party to any other current exclusive buyer brokerage. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So sorry, y'all. Okay. So this is just saying the buyer is going to owe 3% commission for a house that you purchase. And if they end up leasing a property for C here, then I put in that they owe me $0. Again, if you are working with somebody that's just kind of wishy-washy, we don't know if we want to lease, we don't know if we want to buy, you're showing them rentals, you're showing them houses, you may want to put a dollar amount in there so you can solidify that you'll get paid for your time. By the way, this specific agreement that I've got here, I knew these people were not going to rent a property. They were only going to buy. So I didn't want to obligate them to have to pay me anything if they end up renting, because I just knew it was not an option for them. I've worked with these, by the way, I've worked with this this client. I think this is like our third transaction together. So I trust them, they trust me. I try to put as simple as possible of information in here for them. Okay, so of course. Okay, here we go. Protected period is the next thing you're going to fill out. I put 90 days. This is just saying that either before or after the agreement that's set on this, the date that's set on this agreement, if they go under contract on something within 90 days of the end of the agreement, you still are negotiable to have a commission earned on that. And then again, now getting to this number one, it's right here. Buyer is not a party to any other current exclusive buyer brokerage engagement agreement, and all such previous agreements, if any, have expired and have not been renewed. This may be something you want to go over with your buyer when you're talking to them about this, just to show that, look, when you're signing this, you're signing me on as your agent. If you have any other agreements, you need to go ahead and cancel those out, terminate them in writing so that we can work together, and this can be an exclusive agreement so I can give you the service that you deserve and you can have exclusivity with me. Why is this doing this? I don't know. Let's see if I make it full screen. Okay. On this second page, the main thing I just want to show, I'm not going to go through all of this. Main thing I wanted to show is under 4. And right here, the obligation of a buyer to pay broker the commission shall be offset by any commission paid to the broker by seller's broker or seller. So the obligation of a seller's broker to pay a commission shall only exist if there's a prior written agreement between seller's broker and broker, or if the commission being offered by a seller's broker to broker is set forth in a multiple listing service of which the broker is a member. So I had a client recently, they looked at that page number 1 where it says 3% commission. I don't know that I can pay you 3% commission. I'm like, look, the seller 99% of the time pays my commission. You're just saying that if they refuse, then you will then pay my commission. This right here says that the buyer is not obligated to pay as long as the seller covers that commission. Now, here's the catch. If the seller only pays you 2%, you have a buyer's agreement that says 3% signed by your buyer. You can then ask your buyer to pay the remaining 1% at closing. If you're a nice agent, you may just take the 2% and continue on down the road. You may not want your buyer having to come extra additional out of pocket, but there are agents that are like, I'm not doing any deals under 3%. I'm not one of those agents, but you do whatever works for you and your family. Okay, skipping over to the next page, the protected period. By the way, all of this you can go over with your buyers. You also can just send it to them. I just wanted y'all to know what this says so you can be familiar of kind of the highlights of this. D, protected period. So the protected period shall be the period of time set forth in this agreement commencing upon the expiration of the agreement, or what would have been the expiration of this agreement had it not been unilaterally terminated by buyer, during which broker shall be protected for its commission and or leasing commission as applicable. There shall be no protected period if buyer and broker mutually terminate this agreement. Okay, so just make sure that your buyer knows if they want to terminate with you, they need to give you something in writing. And y'all can both mutually terminate as well. If you find that after showing, 10 houses to somebody, they're being unreasonable, you don't want to waste your time anymore. Y'all can agree that this is not gonna, this is not gonna work for y'all. Right here in C, the broker's duties to buyer. Go through this and just make sure that these are the things that you are doing for each and every buyer. Buyer's duty, I would make sure your buyer knows that they are to be reasonably available to see properties, to timely respond. They start ghosting you, they are not going, they're not doing what they signed in our brokerage agreement. So all of this I think is good to just read through, especially if you're a new agent. Get familiar with these forms. Number 5 here. Let's see. Oh, I can't see it because of the Zoom. Okay, 5 is another one that I think has good information, disclosures. This says broker agrees to keep confidential all information which buyer asks to be kept confidential by express request or instruction, unless the buyer permits such disclosure by subsequent word or conduct, or such disclosure is required by law. Buyer acknowledges, however, the seller and seller's broker may possibly not treat an offer made by buyer, including its existence, terms, and conditions, as confidential unless those parties have entered into a confidentiality agreement with the buyer, okay? So we want to keep everything that the buyer says. Look, we don't want, I had somebody come up to me a couple weeks ago at church. We're looking for a house. We want you to help us, buy a house. We want to sell our house too, but really we don't want this word going around because we have family members that are in this same field. We don't want you spreading it that you're working with us. Okay, we are agreeing right here that we are, keeping things confidential, and the buyer needs to also, keep confidential. Okay. Something cool that I see on here that could be really good for maybe our less busy agents. We've already had agents within our brokerage take advantage of this, is referrals. So if a buyer approaches you, they're like, hey, I know you're in the Atlanta area, but I'm actually looking for an agent in North Carolina. Can you help me out in any way? So with your real estate license, you have the capacity to make a referral to someone even out of the state, even if you are not licensed in that state. So I can help you do this, but again, this is a great way. You can actually get a percentage of the commission that is owed at the closing just by making that referral. This is typically like 25 to 30% of the commission. So it's actually a big chunk of money that you can get just by hooking up some people. So this is something to keep in mind, and it actually can help you be successful as well, just by making people aware that this is something that you can do. Okay, so something I won't have time for tonight because I've already went over our time. Number 11, brochures. We'll go through these things maybe the next time. These are some good things that you can give your buyers just from the get-go to be familiar with how to buy a house. Georgia Association of Realtors has some great information on these that you can just pass along. It makes you look very knowledgeable by having something that you didn't even write. And it's got good information in there that, just keeps them covered in case that, somebody's trying to take advantage of them. That's why we're here. We're trying to look out for the best interests of our clients, not have them being taken advantage of while they're buying a house, try to save them as much money as possible, and, show them our worth through this process. We'll say one more thing. In this special stipulations section, anything on a GAR form that you put in a special stipulations section overrides anything within the contract, okay? So my buyers, they saw that big 3% buyer owes agent commission of 3%, and this is an $800,000 house. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that we can pay you $25,000 if the seller doesn't pay your commission. I'm like, okay, look, first of all, I've already got a signed commission agreement with the seller, so I'm not stressed over that. But to make them feel better, I told them, look, I'm going to put it in the special stipulations section that in the event the seller doesn't pay the full 3% commission to me, my buyers are not going to be obligated to pay me. This made them feel better. It overrides what it says. I know that, GAR had to put that information in there to show us that the buyer's responsible for the commission. But in the event this doesn't close, I want my buyers to know, look, you're not going to owe me a dime for what I'm doing for you. Again, I've already got a signed commission agreement with the seller, so I'm not worried about that. Get everybody to sign, put your information in, and then make sure you accept the agreement on that. So if you want to start working with a buyer, this is kind of going to be your first form to get familiar with. Goodness. Okay, I'm just not good at Zoom. I'm going to get better at all of this. I promise y'all. This is something that you want to get familiar with, and then we'll go through kind of the other documents that I send out to clients, again, just to set yourself up as the knowledgeable one. Also, I would love questions, feedback, anything that I can work on so I can be the best and that y'all can be successful in your real estate businesses. I hope every single one of y'all that are within this brokerage does double or triple what I do. And I would love that. That would make me so happy. Y'all take some of my clients. I'm fine with it. I'm busy. I am busy. Take some of my clients. Well, thank y'all so much for being here.